In this video, I talk about my anticipation about COVID vaccine and their roles in dominating our Omicron and susceptible population. Stay with us until the end of this video. Thanks. Hi guys, I'm Dr. Attar, veterinary practitioner and health activist, and it is the January 6th of 2022. First of all, I would like to say Happy New Year and I wish the best for everyone around the world. And this video is in continuation of my previous debate arising about the role of the vaccines and the type of vaccines as preventative measures of COVID-19. Really, after the relief of tension arising from fear of ostensibility and stability of a vaccine against the highly pathogenic form of COVID liberated in the Indian by the term of a Delta variant, which is variant of a concern for the WHO, and saving confidence of scientists about protectivity of vaccines against them, suddenly an ambiguous report released in South Africa approximately 1 month ago about a type of COVID. The patients with clinical science in the absence of any laboratory findings and in the presence of a negative PCR, scientists found the causative agent, a beta coronavirus belonging to a general completely similar to the Delta and other COVID viruses, which omitted some part of the genes, especially in a receptor binding domain of spike protein. And we know that this absence lead to escape of a virus from neutralizing activity of antibodies arising for this spike protein. In despite of a failure arising from WHO and the continuous recommendation of repeated vaccination, repeated self-confidence, and repeated saving of sanitary measures, we found drastic difference between the mode of spread around the world. It's very important that the spread of a disease in South Africa, in the Western countries, in the United States, in the countries completely covered with newly produced vaccines, especially genomic messenger RNA vaccines, especially AstraZeneca and some type of a vector-based vaccines proposed by high technology, showed that many countries with the dominance of vaccines focused on naturally killed vaccines are more protective against this newly produced form of variant of concern, the Omicron. I try to show that, in my opinion, some things are blamed as a causative agent of a high level of spread around the world, especially in the Western developed countries, which completely authorized and administered messenger RNA vaccines and administered adenovirus-based vector vaccines like as AstraZeneca, like as Johnson & Johnson, and in despite of them, the country like China, the country like India, which completely domined with naturally killed virus vaccines are escaped from this. I try to show that why is difference between the Western and developed countries and the countries with poverty, the countries with the absence of a governmental respect against complete vaccination, and with the poor countries. I try to show them what is the reason of that. In these phrases, I try to show that why we blamed the role of a messenger and vaccines just now as the causative agent of huge and overwhelming infectivity of Omicron, especially in well-developed vaccinated countries like as the United States, United Kingdom, European Western countries, and the countries like South Africa, Malaysia, and other countries completely focused on messenger and or vector-based vaccines like as Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca. Let me come back to a concept arising with the works of scientific scholars about the role of circulatory respiratory viruses. A type of viruses pertaining to the coronaviruses like as rhinoviruses, coronaviruses, and some type of respiratory syncytial viruses, and influenza-like viruses. All of them are compete in infection of target cells in the respiratory tract, and they are assumed as circulatory viruses. Approximately 30% of a common cold around the world, especially expressed by the term of a seasonal common cold arising from rhinoviruses. And scientists' work previously showed that presence of a rhinovirus in the environment prevents spread of a coronavirus to the respiratory target cells and saving the patient to escape from coronavirus. On the other side, the works of Dr. Nick Bakhsh and co-workers in the Glasgow University showed that presence of some type of another general immunity responses, even to about some malaria falciparum infection in the India, showed that the level of this humoral antibody can save the people from infection with COVID. All of this research showed that something lead to overwhelming spread of Omicron in the Western countries, which drastically different with the demographic pattern of spread of Omicron in the China, in the India, and other populated or devoted or poverty infected contaminated peoples in the Africa, in the Asia, and the other sides. I try to show that when the level of protectivity, when the level of health preventative measure increased, the level of segregation and isolation of peoples with each other lead to a loss of immunity against the seasonal circulating viruses. The absence of any affordable humoral antibody against these circulating viruses lead to susceptibility of a patient to the upcoming COVID viruses. When we take a look at which happened in the process of Omicron infection in the Western countries, we signal that the populations which are unsusceptible to the upcoming seasonal viruses or any other pathogens which induce the humoral antibody are more prone to infection with the newly produced COVID viruses. For that, we believe the virus vaccines are adopted with a neutralizing antibody around the whole of a virus are more potent against the upcoming newly produced crisis of COVID. By the way, I believe that the administration of a genomic messenger and vaccines or some type of a vector-based which drastically focused on special epitopes of a spike protein lead to eradication of another viruses and another COVID viruses and helping to involve the omitted Omicron-like viruses of COVID to infect the population. In my opinion, administration of vaccines by messenger RNA, which are responsible for activation of immune response against the spike, lead to a iatrogenic evolutionary natural selection, which lead to overwhelming spread of viruses like as Omicron. It may have happened in the another session, and we believe that the scientists, the WHO, must be reevaluate the stability of vaccines which focus in a special area of a virus and waiting to save immunity with stabilizing of a immune response against this special area. Only immunity against the spike protein may be produce a drastic, horrible event in the last outbreak of COVID when the newly produced virus are omitted that part of immune genomes. Thank you so much. Keep with us in another session. Bye.